Um, Hello, this is Heather Rowan Robbins, and this is Access Astrology. We are three astrologers, usually, sometimes two, sometimes one, but today we hope to be three and we'll be showing up shortly. I am speaking to you from Ronan, Montana. This is Access Astrology, and I am joined by.
Mark Waltz, talking from New York City. We got snow.
You got snow. I got
Yeah,
some major snow, I gather.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mercury
Uh,
and Pisces.
Oh, yeah, everywhere. And that Saturn Neptune. Let's slow everything down with
Yeah.
Mercury retrograde, stationary. Everything is not moving. And it's on this uh, with is being affected by water, like the power of moisture, Saturn Neptune. There's also some mudslides in Brazil and I think Peru. I think there's going to be some moving of Earth during this time. And Mars square Uranus. How have the accidents been? That's exact tomorrow. But how have the accident been um, in New York in
Actually,
that area?
thanks to the snow, it could be that we got a break from accidents because people stayed home.
Wonderful. That's a really good thing. And I noticed, I'm hearing from friends. I used to live in Rhode Island, and I was in Rhode Island in 1978 when they had that huge snowstorm that they shoveled the snow into our house, and we took us days to dig out. But it was, they were, you could see from the sky then that there was the Massachusetts border where everything was plowed out, and then we're a big piece there. Somebody
Mhm.
mentioned they're driving to see their daughter for her 21st birthday tomorrow. I always have to travel with Mercury retrograde. It's just what happens. And I've got nothing against it. Just give yourself extra time, have the extra supplies, always have a plan B, and make it entertaining. Bring some good books so that you have patience with the process, even if it's books on tape while you're
And remember,
listening.
a lot of good things have come from things going backwards.
Hmm.
You
And
know,
going back to see a family member is often a great time to heal the past or remember or finish unfinished business together. Can be really lovely.
yep.
Sharing stories. Just watch that the temper and there's a slight accident prone quality tomorrow as Mars squares Uranus. It's in fixed signs, so it's not super pushing. Um, but it is, it will be a time that we can ask us ourselves uh, to be careful, to deal with logistical problems. If your engine light starts flashing, get it checked. What are some of your favorite Mercury retrograde survival skills, Mark?
Well, uh, not reacting too much when you get news that seems to be going backwards or things are delayed. Look for what else you can do. Like, don't waste a Mercury retrograde in the airport fuming.
Right.
Sit,
Bring a book.
find a quiet corner and either read something or
Mhm.
write something.
Or have a good conversation with somebody else who's waiting.
Yeah, because if
Mhm.
Mercury's retrograde for both of you, you might,
Absolutely. Some really wonderful meet cutes happen with Mercury stationary or Mercury retrograde, where
yeah.
two people are dealing with the same problem. Um, I saw that the singer Pink, who is a Virgo Moon and Aries like me, so I always kind of keep an eye out for her. Everybody announced that People Magazine that she was divorcing today, and she had
Oh,
separated from her husband. And she said, "Oh, thank you for telling me. I did not know that. My kids do not know that we're separating. None of us know that we're separating. How interesting that you reported that. Why didn't you report something that matters?" And so that kind of when you hear news that can be a little surprising, or even worse, if it's just what you thought was about to happen, confirmation bias can be a real problem with Mercury retrograde. That um, we think we hear something that we haven't. So we're looking at this, Saturn Neptune conjunct in Aries, Mercury Venus, and the Sun all in Pisces, asking us to be in that soft, sensitive place. just when this energy, there's so much kind of tension and explosive energy in the process. I think the Saturn Neptune conjunction was a powerful thing to have during it. As it conjunct, um, they um, they caught the head of the drug cartel in Mexico, and Mexico blew up. So there is that kind of restraining on our escapist habits. I think that's one of the things that Saturn Neptune is asking us to look at. How do we add discipline in a good way to our escapist habits and bring in spiritual discipline instead? Find some other more dynamic way of using that. That we need that dream time, that we need that visionary time, but we don't need to have that to kind of just to become more conscious of how our escapist habits are affecting us. And we see
Yeah, if
this
you
in the drug war in Mexico right now.
yeah, if you look for ways to use it, then you'll find them. If you
Hmm.
don't, you'll suffer from the repression.
Right,
Just trying to repress Neptune's kind of craziness
right.
doesn't
When you
work.
need, yeah, when you need time out, take it, but take it consciously, or you take it unconsciously and you're daydreaming while you're driving and things happen.
Right.
So staying awake and aware. Also, I see that with that. Mm, um, so we're seeing all of this. There's an eclipse coming up on Monday, and uh, it's an interesting eclipse. It's the Pisces Virgo eclipse. This is the eclipse over Washington D.C., and it's with all those soft planets in Pisces, but we still have that fierce Aries energy. Oh, that's what I was going to say about the Saturn Neptune. I think it's also a restraint on lying, and that we see so much regular lies and the problems going on. And in the State of the Union address recently, the fact checking is pretty intense around the edges. It certainly wasn't on that night. So the question of how is honesty, how can we restrain, to know where we're imagining things and to know where we're deluded. Are we consciously imagining, or are we trying to bamboozle or delude, which is a real issue across the board. We also have uh, the moon opposed Venus here. Someone asked if Anne will be resuming their weekly weather show. I believe so, but I'm not sure. You can always check in on my star codes if you want to. And I want to talk about, some of the aspects that I saw. So we have this sun opposed the moon exact on Monday. Eclipses tend to break things open. They shake it out. If you don't have anything right at that degree, you're probably going to be okay. And even if you do, because I have my sun right there at 12 degrees Virgo, I'm hoping I'm going to be okay. You'll find out next week. But it usually means that we kind of have a wake up call and we can unblock blocked energies. Now, if there's nothing blocked, you barely feel an eclipse or you feel it environmentally around you. If there has been a block, it can be a real issue. Now, I just did a show yesterday, which you could find on Star Codes on YouTube, on about with a great astrologer Sunmi from Minneapolis, and we talked about the Minneapolis chart, the history of it, and what has been going on with the stories. Now, it's really interesting. So the eclipse on Monday is, and this often also talks about how eclipses we feel an eclipse coming long before it gets there. That the eclipse on Monday is right at on the sun. It's on the solar return. The city was incorporated in March 3rd, 1855. And so we go into details with that on that other show. But I just want to see that Minneapolis was born with the Sun Neptune conjunction. And it has been going through a Neptune return for the last 5, 10 years, for the last 10 years. And since it Minneapolis started out with, and Minnie means water. So Minneapolis, Minnesota, Minnie means water. Both the state and the city chart have strong Neptune signatures. This has a Sun Neptune conjunction applying. But the archetype of the martyr is a really important, intense part of the chart of Minneapolis. Since Neptune went into Pisces, there was Philando Castile, George Floyd, the congresswoman that was shot by the MAGA guy, she and her husband and her dog, a room full of Catholic school kids, and and good and pretty, how you can't I may pretend that those words that have been a martyr and for the cause. I'm hoping that Saturn Neptune is sitting right now on the Venus of the chart, and that soon the eclipse is going to be sitting right on because the city was born on that full moon, with the moon return to the moon and the sun on the sun, that this is as Saturn and Neptune get off our Venus and Neptune really pulls out of Pisces, that they have a new archetype to work with. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. But it may get worse before it gets better. They just canceled because the eclipse is also squaring into that Saturn in the 12th. The president just canceled all the funding for Medicaid and Medicare to the state for women, children, and the most vulnerable in the name of stopping fraud, but that's already being taken care of. And that wasn't being perpetrated by Somalis. It was done in the name of the Somalians. It was done by white people. But they've cut it out of the whole state for the moment.
Wow.
And that's a real punishment in the process. And I think that's the eclipsing that, over and over, and that they really had to deal with that this year. So the best of the martyr, like why all these people have died, let's not make sure that it's not for no cause. That it becomes a light of how people hold real, good, clear work around nonviolent protest, which has been amazing in Minneapolis.
The Neptune Saturn conjunction plays into this with the Neptune. It really is a contest between fabricating things, relying on deceit and illusion, and taking responsibility for it. So what I see happening is it's building up a lot of the deceit, a lot of, there have to be consequences to these things, but they keep being delayed by tactics. And at some point, people run out of tactics and they have to answer. So I'm watching for that to happen.
We hope so. So we have 3 people whose charts we're going to work on today. This first one is Hannah, and she's looking at the moon at 29 Aquarius, which got hit by the eclipse, the last solar eclipse, and the Saturn Neptune is near her descendant and oppose her Pluto. She says, I want a real partnership. Tell me how. How much bad luck or karma from the past lifetime, earning a living, trying to sell her house for 2 years. And there's so many things going on in this chart. So I'm going to pull up the progressions in a minute, but we see that this Aquarian kind of reaching out, which it can help her sell her house this year with that, because it can unblock blocked energies. So for the next 6 months might be a very good time to get a house sold. It's because it's unblocked what's been stuck in that Aquarius. It feels like her, she's got that Scorpio Aquarius fight. So it's always hard to get all of your boats going in the same direction. The Scorpio wants to be alone and doesn't really notice what would support relationships until they're in it, because There's a need for safety. And the Aquarius wants to love the whole known world and wants to have friends and wants to be out there, but doesn't necessarily let them in and make it personal. So I'd say is learning something about what makes it safer for you to be emotionally intimate would be one of the things that I would suggest. Um, Mark, what do you see? Here's her progressions, and also that her progressed moon is right in there. And her progressed moon is 26, and Mars is sitting right on her progressed moon. And a progressed moon in 4 months goes into Pisces, which a better time to be in
That
relationship.
that that will help with relationship in
Mm-hmm.
4 months when that moon goes into Pisces.
Mm-hmm.
It's much more accepting of things. When you have Mars conjunct Moon, it's not exactly a comfort spot or uh, an accepting spot. There's more, what about me? What about my feelings? And a real push. But when the moon goes into Pisces by progression, that'll ease up on that drive of the moon Mars.
Mm-hmm.
So look for that.
Mm-hmm. And I would say that I'm not so worried about the Saturn and Mars. Not really on our descendant. It's a few degrees past that. It is opposed that Pluto in her first house, and that Pluto in the first house talks about the layers, I think, of protection that she built up when she was very young to handle feeling alone or not feeling safe or feeling other in her early environment, and that she ran with it and did well, but that again maybe uh, looking at the difference between the signals that she sends out and how she actually feels. So, kind of because that can help dissolve some of the difficult parts of that Pluto and keep the good parts intact. I noticed that her progressed sun in a few weeks goes into Capricorn, where it's been in Sagittarius, the don't fence me in sign for 30 uh, for 30 years, since she was 25 years old. And so she may be ready to kind of settle down and settle in and get more practical about some things in her life rather than prioritizing freedom at all costs in this next phase of her life. Uranus will be opposing her Neptune, and that kind of, again, I think can help her if you choose to use that to wake up and to get clear. You can do that well. But I'd say getting your house in order, getting your house sold, and getting where you want to live is going to be an important part of this springtime for you. Mark,
Yeah,
what do you?
and
Mm-hmm.
natally, you have Saturn opposite Neptune. So that energy of Saturn Neptune is a strong point for you. Now they're conjunct. So they
Mm-hmm.
were opposite, now they're conjunct. And you're feeling it more strongly than most people. So you figure out how you're going to use it. And remember, Neptune can make you lose track of reality. So you need to have tests. And you need
Mm-hmm.
to have people that you can confirm things with. So get your advisors lined up, know who they are, and give them clear questions to answer. And
That's well said.
don't make your own answers. You need outside help while this Neptune Saturn works their thing out. And
Mm-hmm.
you'll be undoing some patterns that go all the way back because it's in your natal chart. So when the same two planets are in a different aspect to each other, it's your chance to refigure some of what you knew about Saturn and Neptune and
Yeah,
how your
beautiful.
dream reality is created.
Mm-hmm. I want to say thank you to the people that have called in from Taos, Melbourne, Ontario, from Queens. We've got a nice range of people there. Welcome, all of you. It's so good to feel part of this, the astro interested community. So I'm going to take this
Good.
on to um, Juliet's chart, and Juliet says that she's been trying to find an affordable apartment to move to for a few years. She's on public housing waiting lists, which are so slow. Is there any help? And how is her finances? And you've got, you can see it's a lot that's been sitting here on this. I'm going to bring her tri-wheel up right away because it feels like that's an important part of what's happening. So her progressed moon will be conjunct her progressed sun in Cancer in a new home in 15 months. It may take 15 months to start that new chapter, but there's a lot of good stuff happening for her on that right now. And just even this week with Neptune, with the sun, Venus, and Mercury all going over her moon. Happens this time of year for her. That says, let's take a look at what's happening here. Um, she has Pluto was sitting on her Mars for a long time, squaring her Mars. Then Pluto was squaring her Mercury recently, and they've both moved on. So there's more room for her. Saturn and Neptune were squaring her Venus, and they've just left it last week, and Venus rules her house of the home. So there's a lot of pieces that suggest the air is beginning to clear and that there's this new beginning coming in her life as her progressed moon conjuncts her sun in 15 months and then crosses the ascendant in 9 months after that. There's layers of new beginnings. The big blocks that have been sitting on her chart are beginning to shift. What are you seeing here, Mark? What do you think of this?
It's an opportunity for you to exercise your mystic rectangle. You have a special combination of planets that we don't see all that often, but the moon opposite Pluto and sun opposite Neptune form the mystic rectangle. And it's something that you can use. So they're opposed, they're in opposition to each other, but it creates a big energy to use
Mm-hmm.
to make things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's a creative thing. And anytime that you can crank up the energy of those planets, that's your chance to manifest things, especially from the mind wandering and just allowing itself to think without structure and then pulling it into structure. That's when you create something.
That's
So you
beautiful.
keep dipping into the well and taking a sip, letting it go. And the well is your imagination. Go into your imagination and pull things out and say, how could I make something like I see when I look within me?
And it really feels like one chapter in your life has ended, the next one hasn't quite started yet. And between now and the beginning of spring, it's going to be between the worlds. Enjoy that time between the worlds. Don't expect it to hurry up and manifest. Just use this time to kind of reset and get ready as if you are moving, because I
Yeah,
think
that's good.
that's coming. That's coming.
Yeah, do everything as if you're moving and then see what happens.
And this next one is, I believe it's from Karen. Sometimes on the names of people, if people send me their birth information, it's really, I see often the name and the the name on the email address are different. So I'm hoping that I get the right names on these. If I don't, please say this is your name, the name you want me to use online. And if you use the pseudonym, just remember your pseudonym so you know that we're talking about you. I've had a couple people say, "Oh, I forgot that I said use that name." So anyway, we have Karen here, and curious what you see for getting hired for a new job and for increased finances. And another Pisces moon kind of coming into some clarity. I think so many Pisces moons that I know of as Saturn and Neptune, even though Saturn and Neptune weren't necessarily on their Pisces moons, there was a sense of just not knowingness, of being caught in the fog and not being able to manifest something. And I'm seeing that fog beginning to clear. Now we have to figure out what's here, but that the fog is beginning to clear in many cases. And the eclipse that's hitting on Monday is close to her moon Mercury opposition, but it's not right on it. It still may be a chance to kind of shift the gears and step into a good place with this. Pluto has not that long ago gone across um, her midheaven. And I bring that tri-wheel up here. So her progress moon is in Pisces for another uh, hmm, like 3.5 months. And then her progress moon goes into Aries, and that's a time when you're usually, they say, you're on. Hurry up, get to work, you know, get moving. Uranus is safely in her first house. It's going to be moving into Gemini. Uh, I think, she's got that it can feel defeated with that Sun Pluto conjunction natally, a feeling that, when you were 6 years old, there were some, 5 to 7 years old, there was something that left you a bit daunted. It gave you great strength, but left you daunted. Kind of, it's hard to believe that things will work out. So you may tend to kind of just slightly undershoot the mark or go like, it's no use or it'll never happen. And I want you to kind of believe, what would it look like if it did happen? To spend some time kind of taking yourself over those hurdles and see if we can help shift that pattern this lifetime. You've got some really nice aspects in the process here. So, with Pluto safely now in your 10th house, your work is in a chance to really evolve. And I would say, don't push it in the next few weeks because Mercury is so very retrograde. But be ready to take it forward. And if you've already applied for the job, anything that's already in the works is something to follow through on with Mercury retrograde. It's not an easy time to apply for a new job, but I know a lot of people are kind of getting job offers from something they started a while ago, but it was born with Mercury direct. Have you found that, Mark? What do you see about that when things begin with when Mercury is direct, that it's a good time to follow through or to
Yeah, it is.
follow up?
Yeah, because that's the starting energy, and that it's always recognized. So it'll
Mhm.
happen.
Mhm.
Looking in your chart at Scorpio, you have a really nice pile of energy in Scorpio. So you really want to work to understand how Scorpio works in your life,
And how might
especially
you shift
the
that?
Jupiter Sun conjunction
Mhm.
is it's
Right, this
really
year. Beautiful.
bright. Yeah,
By
it can be
progression this year.
overly optimistic. You might find yourself like ignoring some important signals because you're reading the optimistic report. So be careful of that.
Mhm.
But
But I
Scorpio has such a strong energy to change things,
mhm.
and you can change things around you and within you, and people rely on you to bring change.
Mhm. And I'd say, that if that Scorpio energy, if your job involves anything about investigation or doing the background work so that something that, deepening, finding out the nuts and bolts, putting the pieces together, doing the research, it's a really beautiful use of your Sun Pluto and that present lineup in Scorpio. You were born with Saturn on the ascendant, which is usually a delay in a birth or a post mature delay in a birth or difficulty at birth, so that sometimes people with born with Saturn on the ascendant can feel like it's hard for them to initiate new things. But like being born a week late, you're more than ready. When new things begin, everybody thinks you know what you're talking about. That people's response to you is that you're mature, you know what you're doing, you may be a little bit more daunting to deal with than you know. That so making people feel safer and included with you. Like, I know what I'm doing, but I'm not going to use it against you. I know what I'm doing, and I can help you with that, is an important part, I think, of that Saturn on the ascendant. So good luck with
Good.
that.
Yeah.
And Mark, would you like to close up with some thoughts on the
Yeah.
eclipse coming up, or whatever you feel called to think about?
Actually, I've been thinking about Mercury retrograde. So
Please.
I'll give everybody a simple
Mhm.
assignment for the week.
Okay.
Look at your natal chart and see where is Mercury, which house is it in, sign and house, and read what you can or watch what you can. It tells about that
Mhm.
Mercury in that sign and in that
Mhm.
house, and
Mhm.
just
Mhm.
deal with that because it's going backwards within a certain range, and starting from 22 Pisces, goes backwards. It's in Pisces the whole time of the retrograde. So spend a little time understanding the issues in the house that it's happening for you and see what you can do with it.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, all from you, from being here. May you lose Mercury retrograde well. And may this eclipse on Monday, you think of what you're ready to release, to clear, to clean. It's like preparing a garden. You know, you're getting ready to plant new things on the other side of, as spring begins on the other side of this Mercury retrograde. What can we release? We certainly can see that politically, but let's do this here in our lives.
A quick
Thank you.
note also on that eclipse coming on Monday. Uh, it's not a really heavy chart. There's nothing in there that's really like horrible. So it can be a gentle letting go of things,
Hmm. Thank
easeful.
you.
Doesn't have to blow up. You can just carry it out to the trash yourself.
Thank you. You take care, and I hope all is well. Have a good week.